District 5 United strives to improve the quality of life in East San Jose and citywide as necessary. And tonight we have Chris Copolillo with KIPP Academy, who will share some information, and I'll hand it off to you.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks, Juan. And I'm looking forward to the conversation and just appreciate the invitation and the opportunity to tell you all a little bit about our school and about the advocacy efforts that KIPP San Jose Collegiate students have taken and are going to take to advocate for safety in their community, and to really learn more about the broader context on the issues that we're advocating on. So I'm going to run us through some background. I'm going to take through staff support and our perspective, and just then give folks a chance to ask some questions. And Mackenzie, I'm so grateful that Mackenzie Mossing is here from the mayor's office. Just as a support, I don't know all the technical, can't answer all the technical questions as well as she can. And so I'm grateful for Mackenzie being here too. Why don't let me just see if I can share my screen, and I can, so that's great. Why don't we just start like this is what we're here for. These are graduating seniors at KIPP SJC. I believe this picture is from the spring of 2022, but these are our kids. This is our campus. And this is the place from which the conversation started. Our kids' observations and desire to take action. And that's really tied pretty inextricably to our approach and our mission as a school. KIPP San Jose Collegiate's mission, I'm just going to read it, is together with families and communities, KIPP San Jose Collegiate provides a joyful and academically excellent education that prepares students with critical thinking and college readiness skills to pursue their chosen path upon graduation. We're committed to building a diverse team that cultivates individual growth and ensures all students strengthen responsibility, resilience, and leadership, so they advocate for themselves and their community, becoming agents of change. So that's wordy, but you can see there that building a familiarity and a comfort with advocacy with our students is a part of our mission and what KSJC is all about. Before I talk about what's going on in the advocacy, what's gone on and will go on in the advocacy space with our students, let me just give you a little background about our students. Probably give you a little background about myself too. My name's Chris. As Juan has mentioned and introduced me, and my role is as Managing Director of Policy, Enrollment, Advocacy, and Community Engagement at KIPP San Jose Collegiate and across our region more broadly. I work with 21 KIPP schools to support our students and families towards advocating for their community and a bunch of other things. So that's me. And I want to tell you a little bit about our kids at KSJC. So who are we? KSJC is a student population of, this year, 498 students. The students are 98% students of color. 70% of them are eligible for free or reduced lunch. 73% of our students are either currently or formerly multilingual learners. So KSJC students, as this suggests, have or are learning to navigate the English language as a functional language in school. 1% of our students, and this is interesting, overlap which you were about to talk about, are eligible under McKinney-Vento homelessness criteria. So considered eligible as as McKinney-Vento homeless. And 90% of our students at KSJC matriculate on to college. On the right, you can see our student demographics. KSJC is largely a Latinx school with a large population of Asian students, some Black students, and then you're unable to see some of the super small slivers, but those constitute multi-ethnic and white students as well. So this is just a little bit about our school and our student body. And I may be missing a little bit of information. I hope I didn't delete it here, but alas, if so, give me just a second. Okay. Well, I'll roll with the punches. The other thing to note about KSJC is that we've been authorized for 15 years by the Eastside Union High School District. We're a public charter school, and so operate on the campus of Independence High School, where we've been for the last 14 years, with another that we spent on the Mount Pleasant High School campus. But this is really our home. KSJC has been in the place that it is for quite a long time, and is functionally on a large blacktop proximal to a parking lot, which sits next to Education Park Drive on the Independence High School campus. And we share that campus not only with Indy, but with two other charter schools, and a county program and a SCOE program, which is adjacent to us, all relevant for the student experiences that I'm going to talk through with folks. So you know our kids a little bit now. I just want to talk through about what happened at KIPP SJC. And for some folks listening, this may feel familiar, but please do ask questions if there are things here that pop up. Student advocacy at KIPP SJC really got started around the issue that we'll discuss today last spring, after many months of some serious safety concerns on the campus. Most notably, repeat incidents of community members entering the campus during the school day, incidents between students and community members next to the campus, and a string of burglaries on the KSJC campus at nights and on mornings when staff was not present. The issues on campus were prompted by some facilities related concerns. There's a fence, a pretty typical fence at KSJC that folks are able to easily access the campus. There are, because we're located next to and adjacent to so many other programs, many access points to the campus. And so students raised some concerns on the facility front, and as a part of that, started exploring what advocacy on their experience could look like. Students and staff learned that these incidents were occurring specifically between some members of the neighboring row of RVs outside the KSJC campus and our students and staff. The school took action, and really it was the KIPP San Jose Collegiate's Young Democrats Club that took action around the issue, with a focus on the kind of facilities and safeties attention that would provide safety and do so by advocating on the underlying issues they observed. So what did they do? They first convened conversations with their students and families. They engaged with staff. They took their stories to a school district board meeting. KSJC Dems engaged with elected leaders and especially with Councilmember Peter Ortiz and with Mayor Mahan. and the staffs of those elected leaders. The students and school staff engaged with other city staff and city departments, including SJPD, Beautify, and homeless concerns. The kids then worked with those officials to draft a policy recommendation and to publicly advocate in the August Rules Committee meeting in favor of a policy that would include RVs in the existing school setback ordinance. And since that meeting, our students have continued to learn about policy and advocacy, but also get additional exposure to the issues and experiences facing the unhoused community. A small group of our students was able to attend a community meeting at the Moreno Hotel, which is a transitional housing community that folks probably know about. And as the city is continuing to consider a number of other actions around homelessness in the unhoused community, our focus as a staff is continuing to bring students in to an educational process around the nuances of the issue, to expose students to the many effects that taking action can produce, and to encourage them to think critically and act on how to bring those understandings into subsequent public advocacy. You saw our mission, and our mission doesn't stop after one action. It's about developing advocates who are present in their communities and able to do this throughout their lives. So I do want to mention the staff and the students are working now to identify the right person or people that can convene at least one conversation, hopefully more than one, on the lived experience of being unhoused and how that interfaces with some of the policy actions that students are taking. I also want to mention, because the advocacy that folks may have heard about and observed and just listen to me talk through is so interrelated to facilities quality and issues on the school campus. Our school has taken some pretty significant steps to secure the KSJC campus. We've just invested in additional security at the school. That looks like a private security guard that's present on campus, an upgrade to the security system that's available on campus. And we're enjoying good collaboration with the Eastside Union High School District to address some of the underlying facilities concerns that students drew attention to. So moving forward on multiple fronts, and we've got a lot of work to do still. Our students are ready to engage on these issues more broadly and to learn more. And I'm eager to hear from folks in the community tonight and to just keep the discussion going. So I'll stop there and welcome questions.
Okay, thank you, Chris. I am promoting Lieutenant Brett Hatzenbuehler so that he could share his audio and video, and he did want to speak, I believe. So, Lieutenant, whenever you're ready.
You got me? Am I there?
Yes.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry to ask to go first. We just have a police memorial here at 7 o'clock in front of our police department I got to get to. But I definitely wanted to make your guys' meeting so I can answer any questions and some issues that you guys have. First thing, my screen went dark. Can you guys still see me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I met with Captain Brandon Sanchez. He had an emergency that he had to run out to. Just to let you guys know, I'll address a few things. Vehicle burglaries in general, I know regarding KIPP school, and then just the surrounding area out there around your guys' school, Mount Pleasant, basically within your guys' your boundaries of your neighborhoods. Captain Sanchez has been in coordination with the burglary unit. They're working on identifying, kind of using a little more computer analytics to help us identify and cut down on time, but then identify where these burglaries are happening so we can be a little more proactive on our end. So Captain Sanchez is working on that. Regarding the RVs, the city's working on the charter to add new language to existing language, which I think you guys are aware of, and you kind of touched on it regarding the KIPP school stuff. They are trying to get a setback for schools and that sort of thing. Schools and other locations, so that they can't park their RVs there. They can't, inhibit the people driving in. Obviously, they can be an eyesore at time and or collect garbage, but there should be a place for them, and they shouldn't be at the schools or near the schools. There needs to be a setback for that for sure. That is in process. Captain Sanchez says the city's working on that. He'll be able to answer more questions on that, at your guys' next meeting and see what the progress is on that. A little noteworthy thing, we pulled in the last several weeks, there's been 3 gun arrests out in your guys' district area. And those were all ghost guns, unserialized. So the officers, especially the midnight watch officers, they're out there working their butts off, being proactive and getting guns off the street. Swing shifters are typically pretty busy with calls for service, but they too are working their butts off out there also. So we're very aware and in tune with especially what's occurring out there off Mount Pleasant, both schools and the neighborhood in general. Those are 3 things he wanted me to relay. I'll open it up for a couple questions you guys may have for me that if I can answer for you now, or maybe relay to you down the road to Brandon so he can answer them.
I don't see any questions at this time. Brisa, did you want to go, or did any of the panels have any questions for the lieutenant?
Hi, no, nothing from us. I think I just wanted to make sure that the community knows that I'm also here on behalf of Councilmember Peter Ortiz's office to take notes on feedback. And then also happy to answer any questions. I worked alongside Mackenzie and Chris on this memo, and we loved, the whole process and getting the students on board and, really engaging them with civic engagement and having them also, write the language up as well. So happy to be here.
All right.
Yeah, just don't want to not take the opportunity to thank Brisa as well for being just super close to the process and helping our kids and navigate what's new and confusing for folks who are new to that process. And good to see you.
Norma has joined as a panelist. Would you like to pose your question or comment? I'll give it a few seconds and then I'll go and read it for you if you don't. Go ahead, Norma. We can't hear you, Norma. It looks like you unmuted. I'll go ahead and read it. We reported 2 RVs and several homeless vehicles parking along Mount Pleasant Park behind Mount Pleasant Elementary School to the homeless concerns with pictures. They would move their vehicles, but would remain all night and day parked. We noticed a lot of strange activities near these vehicles, cars double parking and more trash being left behind. Yesterday, we noticed the homeless vehicles left, but this afternoon, one of the RVs returned. If an ordinance to prohibit homeless vehicles around school passes, how is it going to be enforced?
Thank you for your question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm assuming that's a question for me, right?
I'm also happy to weigh in. Hi, everyone. Mackenzie Mossing from the mayor's office. Thanks to Chris and Brisa and all the students for their work on the memo. I think what we're seeing here in terms of the timeline and enforcement, first the memo has to come, or the draft ordinance has to come before the full council. We'll expect that to come by the end of this year. It'll take them a couple of months to draft that ordinance. And we learned a lot through this process, working with the students and with our attorney's office, that one of the key components that are necessary to be able to enforce an ordinance like this is posting signage. So recognizing that there are a lot of schools that are going to be impacted by this ordinance, we want to take a phased approach, and just also recognizing the number of resources that requires if we have to put signage around 1,000 different locations. We want to take a phased approach and first look at the communities that are most impacted by this issue. So likely the way that enforcement would work would be to post signage to ensure that everybody knows that this is a new law in effect. We would send outreach workers out to residents living in RVs to let them know that this new ordinance is in effect and try to connect them to resources as they're available. And then there would be a series of progressive sanctions. What those are has yet to be determined. We expect the city attorney's office will come back with those, but could be anywhere from a citation to a tow. Obviously, our goal is not to be towing people's homes. And so we expect that the outreach we provide ahead of time will provide enough information that will encourage somebody to move outside of that 150-foot buffer. I hope that answers the question.
Lieutenant, did you want to add anything? And I understand you have to leave soon, so if you do, let us know.
Yeah, I agree with her on exactly that. Is there's a lot of processes or a lot of steps to occur before we can start the enforcement side of it. The city's going to have to work on their end, and then once they have that in place, that's when they can use the police department to enforce the rules. So we won't come in, or I won't come in until we start enforcing the rules. But I know Captain Sanchez is coordinating with you guys and helping, weighing in and drafting, what should occur or not should occur, or offering our department 2 cents, if you will. I'll leave that to him. I did see one other question on there to me or I saw a question on there in general. Do any of the students possibly live in those motorhomes? I don't know if that was to me or to the panel, but either way, I have no knowledge that any of the parents and students live there. I'm not saying they don't live in one of those motorhomes, but I have no knowledge, or the police department as of now has no knowledge that any student or parents live in those motorhomes.
All right, thank you. And I think that was Jordan's question. Jordan, did you want to add anything else, or is there an additional question you had?
Yeah, I had a few additional questions, sort of a multi-layered set of questions. You said that this was prompted by incidents that happened at the school between students and teachers and residents of those RVs. Can you be any more specific than that?
Sure. And yeah, sure. The reason I'm not being more specific is because during the advocacy process, our students drew attention to some pretty specific concerns. But the things that folks have cited include not only the burglaries and break-ins, but a student spoke at length about being followed by a resident of the RV community home from school. Another student spoke about being threatened with a knife by a member of the RV community. Students spoke about pretty unfortunate verbal interactions between members of the RV community, students during after-school events. And as I mentioned, the school staff has experienced the outgrowth of the break-ins and burglaries on a regular basis that are traceable to not every, but some members of that RV community.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but all those things you just said are already illegal, right?
I don't think so. I don't think unfortunate verbal interactions are illegal, nor do I think some of the other issues that students have cited, including disposal of waste nearby RVs, the sort of unique problem challenges of having the community directly proximal to the school has posed are illegal. And I think the school doesn't want to call and ask for somebody to be arrested because they're on a school campus during the day. The issues that students have experienced on campus are members of the community being present and, notably in really tough shape, experiencing issues with addiction, with mental health crises. These aren't crimes. And so our staff and our students aren't advocating for something that results in, an arrest for somebody finding themselves on our campus in condition like this. We're, I think, trying to find our way to a solution that recognizes that folks are going through a pretty hard time.
So my thought is basically like, you talked about your students approaching this in a nuanced way and wanting to learn, all these things. And it sounds like they are, but this approach of just banning people from a certain area because they happen to live in an RV, because some people who happen to live in RVs have behaved badly, I don't think really teaches students a very good message that, oh, we can, like, it's a hard problem to solve, we'll solve it in the future, but in the meantime we're just gonna shove them somewhere else. And the officer said we don't know if any students or their parents live in those RVs. And my question also included staff and teachers as well. Like, you don't know who lives there.
There are students and staff in those RVs. Now, it doesn't mean there's not students and staff in any RVs. And so, look, I appreciate the question. If to the specific question, are there students and staff in the RVs outside the KSJC campus? There are not.
I'll just say one last thing. So on the trash thing specifically, I don't live in near these specific RV encampments, so I don't know the specifics of it. But just thinking about it a little bit, like, if you live in a home or an apartment complex, you get trash service from the city. I don't know if the RVs are, have that same amount of trash service. But again, if there's things that we could be doing rather than, banning a particular type of vehicle, because the issue isn't with vehicles, it's the issue is with behaviors. And some of those, threatening people with knives, that's a behavior. Trash issues, maybe it's a behavioral issue, maybe it's just a lack of resources. But they're not going to fare any better at trash just because we move them 200 feet down the road. So if they are lacking in trash services, that should be something that the city can provide, given that the city does provide that service to residents of the rest of the city as well. I'm sure there's a lot more I could say, but I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I do just want to note, like, we've benefited from good collaboration from the Beautify SJ team, and I know the city has invested in services around trash removal and waste removal at the site, and so that's the service that's been provided. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't. Our students are asking to put solely somewhere else. I think we want to take a nuanced approach and look at a lot of the factors that contribute to folks landing in this situation and try to find the best way to meet the needs of everyone in the community. But Mackenzie, maybe you can talk about the specific ordinance that students and staff crafted and the way the way it's currently written. We imagine this could be enforced.
Yeah, so when we started working on this, we realized that we already have a setback for encampments around schools. So within our encampment management strategy, which dictates when and where we conduct abatements, those are limited in scope. So it's within the public right of way, so sidewalks or streets or trails. It's whenever an encampment could be impacted by construction. So if we're starting construction on a street or a trail, for example, and we don't want, we have to move people out of the way because they could be, you know, not a great place for people to be if there's construction happening there. We conduct abatements when there are serious public health and safety concerns. So when there have been a lot of fires or rat infestations, for example, and we need to clean up the site because it's just not healthy for people to live there. And we have 150 feet from schools where we don't allow encampments. But because vehicles are treated differently under the California Vehicle Code, we learned that we needed to do a formal ordinance that codifies that there should be a boundary, a buffer around schools, 150 feet, just like we have for encampments, so that we can ensure that students are feeling safe on their campus and have distraction-free campuses. And so that's really what the legal intent here is to create an ordinance so that we have that flexibility to enforce RV encampments if necessary. Brisa, did you want to add anything? I know we work very collaboratively with your office on this. I'm sure there's something I'm missing. It's been a long day.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, we've been working closely with staff, and then like Mackenzie said, this is something that you know, we put forward through, you know, the rules committee and through staff, and it's something that's you know, we're asking what the ordinance would look like. We're not setting like a specific, you know, I guess prescriptive solution for it. They're still going to come back with that solution, and you know, council, once it comes back and staff has this analysis, and you know, they're also working on different analysis on, you know, the demographics or how to help, you know, people that live in these lived-in vehicles. And so, you know, if there are solutions that don't work, or there are solutions that we feel you know, might be too harsh or something like that, you know, the council is always free to amend it or change it. So it really depends on, you know, what they present. And so that's kind of something that we'll see once it comes back to council. I believe it's going to be around the fall, maybe in the next few months. McKenzie, just correct me if I'm wrong. And, you know, that's something that the, you know, staff has brought up in the early consideration form that we brought to rules, is that, you know, enforcements can look like multiple things. And one of that is just like signage. And, you know, just kind of going back to what Chris was saying was, you know, we've also been working with staff to make this, you know, like you said, there is trash services, and there is waste services, and you know, it's although we're working on this issue, it also becomes, you know, a quality of life for our students and making them also feel safe in a school environment. A lot of them cited that it's been difficult for them to focus, and so it's been an interesting process working with them on these issues, because you know, there was a lot that they wanted to put in the background, and Chris, you can like attest to that there was like so many photos and things that we wanted to put there, and you know, we could only put so much. And I think hopefully in the future, in Jordan, maybe you can get to talk to these students about it, or you know, really get their perspective on it and how it feels like to, because you know, I haven't been in high school in a long time, and I kind of can't imagine what it's like to be, you know, in high school in this time like them. So I would definitely offer that up. You know, a lot of the kids in the Democratic Club are, you know, they're so very smart, and like a lot of the solutions that they proposed to us, you know, we were hoping we get to, you know, facilitate that process and hopefully continue working on that. So that's kind of it for me, Mackenzie. If I'm missing anything else, just kind of like, you know, we're still waiting for staff to come back with that ordinance and seeing what specifically enforcement would look like. And if we don't really like it, I mean, we can always change it.
Yeah, I did just want to add one thing since Jordan brought up the issue of trash services. So we currently, the Beautify SJ teams, provide trash services to about 200 encampments on a weekly basis. So they bag up their trash, and the Beautify SJ team has a regular schedule and route that they go on where they pick up the bags. We recently started within the last year or so a new pilot program where we're also serving RVs. So we go around and we remove gray and black water from our RVs and pick up their trash as well. So it's something that we've piloted in recent years and hope to expand, because we think we agree with you, Jordan, it's important to provide those same services to the unhoused community, especially since our housed community has those. And Unfortunately, a lot of the trash that ends up in encampments come from the housed community. I mean, people see an encampment and they drop off their appliance or their couch, and then the unhoused person gets blamed for it. So we agree that we need to do more to provide trash services.
All right, thank you. And there were two additional comments or questions or from two people who declined to share their audio and video. So first I'll read Aurelia Sanchez's. She says, I live downtown and this RV problem near schools is a citywide problem. Schools, youth centers, daycares need a policy from the city to not allow the unhoused to camp or enter these facilities. The unhoused problem is an adult problem that the schools should not be having to deal with. Schools cannot focus on teaching and educating our children when property is damaged and teachers and children fear their surrounding. The mayor's office and council need to act now since this problem has been going on for years. My community has dealt with the unhoused impacting schools in our area for years, and no one has wanted to address it. Do what you need to do to protect our kids. So that's Aurelia's, and then I'll go through Lorenzo's, and then all of you can chime in on either. And so Lorenzo, I may mispronounce this, Arciniega, says, I am currently walking around the KIPP campus at this moment, and besides the RVs, I see a large amount of large trailer trucks, some with sleeper cabins. What about the security issues with the trailers? And then he goes on, as I walk around the campus of KIPP, I'm also noticing a number of security lights that are out, blinking or not bright enough to say the area is safely lit. Can we address that, especially at night? Thank you. And then lastly, sorry to be specific, I am at the Independence High School campus.
So maybe we should start with the, and I'm sure this is what Brisa is getting ready to speak to, but maybe we just start with the trailer issue. The trailers that are parked on Ed Park Drive are in a restricted parking zone. And so school staff have been reporting those trailers via 311 when they're parked at during hours when they're not supposed to be parked there. And city parking enforcement can go in and ticket those vehicles. So that's to my knowledge, just working with the school operations staff, that's happened on a pretty regular basis. And it's, look, it's something that's been present for a while in terms of the trailers pulling up. So I think it probably takes a while to change it too. But in terms of the facilities question, Lorenzo, yeah, I'd be interested to know where on the Indy campus you are. I mean, addressing the security lighting situation is an interesting one. It really depends what part of the campus you're observing, whether you're observing the KSJC campus or another part of the Indy campus. We just have to work with one or the other of the many entities that's on that site. For our part, we've put considerable resources into security lighting since the summer, and in a way that's like somewhat reactive and somewhat proactive given the lights. But I, if you can tell me if you're looking at the KSJC campus, we can think about a solution there.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, we've also been hearing from, a couple of neighbors in the area about the issues with the trucks. I think they're just, I don't know how, like, it's the trailers, and it's kind of been something that we've been keeping our radar on, and just to kind of give you an update, we've been working with our parking and traffic control supervisor on that, and they've been going out there proactively. Of course, it's always good to report it to 311. Just continue reporting it. They're not supposed to be in those areas, like Chris said. I don't think it's zoned for that, for parking for such large vehicles, especially in like these residential areas. But feel free if it was Aurelia or whoever asked the question, feel free to email me them. Since I've been kind of keeping a thread with those parking control supervisors that have been working in that area specifically.
Did anybody else want to address those two questions or comments? If not, we'll go on to Jordan. Jordan, go ahead.
Yeah, back to the trash service thing. So you talked about Beautify SJ coming through and cleaning things up, and you talked about I think one or two things in that vein. When I was, I guess when I was thinking and when I asked my question, when I said trash service, I mean that stuff's certainly important, but I was thinking of like regular trash service, like just like all residents have bin or dumpster that they can put stuff in that the trash trucks are picking up once or twice a week. So not like a special service, but like the same service that everyone else gets. Do they have access to that? Do they have access to bins or dumpsters that get picked up by trash collection the same as other residents?
So not currently, but it's something that we've wanted to look into. I think the major hiccup there is just working with the trash haulers because they won't pick up bins if they're not in specific locations. And so there have been ongoing conversations with our haulers who aren't, they're contracted by the city. They're not managed by the city. And so we have contracts with them. And we've seen this issue with dumpsters, unfortunately, in the past at some of our encampments is people will see those out there on the street and they housed people, whoever it may be, will come and they'll put items in there and it'll be overflowing or, couches in front of it or whatever it may be. And as soon as it's unsafe for them to come through and pick up those dumpsters, then they don't come and pick it up. So it would require, there are a lot of nuances to it. It would require a lot more thought and conversations with our haulers to do that, but it's something that we've been interested in. Definitely, I think it's a good point.
All right, I'm just double checking. Aurelia says I live near downtown College Prep downtown, and prostitution is a big problem near the school. This has been going on for years and ties in with the fact that our political leaders and others do not want to address problems that impact our school. Why is it that council meeting and school board meetings have strict rules on speaking, conduct, and have police officers during council meetings and metal detectors? Let us start protecting our children who depend on us for guidance, care, and etc. I don't know if any of you wanted to address that, or if not, I believe that was the final comment.
No, but I mean, since it is in downtown, I'm happy to connect Aurelia with District 3. I mean, if that's, I would love to get that them connected with their council member regarding that school. And I think the metal detectors were recently put in place because of safety, but it's I think to a larger point that I think Aurelia is making is that we should also be keeping our kids safe at at the same level. So Aurelia, if you don't mind, maybe you can direct message me, or I don't know how she would be able to do that. I left my email in one of the questions, or I can also type it out in the chat if you want to reach out to me and maybe we can get connected on that issue. And then I can also loop in Mackenzie, so we can get kind of get you some answers.
Everyone, I just want to say good night.